As I'm sure you can all see, our portfolio planner here is flying blind because popping out of the clouds are various things that he just doesn't have good visibility of. Starting with demand, projects are popping in from all over the place by surprise often. He doesn't have good visibility of supply, of where the resource is coming from, whether he has the skills in-house to take on the incoming demand and so on. May not even have a good idea of what the priorities in the organization are, what the company's strategies are. Change seems to come by surprise as well, and he doesn't generally have a good picture of productivity in the organization, of how productive are the people, and is there an environment in place to allow people to be productive. And this is the visibility that we so often lack. So I always like to ask this question, and here it's a hypothetical question, but on a scale of zero visibility to clear skies, where does your organization stand? And when I ask this in live conferences, often it's somewhere in the middle. And so there's room for improvement. Now, I've done a couple benchmark studies. Some of you have attended my previous presentations, might have seen some of this, but these were benchmark studies in resource planning and capacity planning. And the participants were some 600 PMO directors and organizational executives and project leaders and so on. And the pain points that came out of this study, and these studies took place between 2014 and 2016, so it's not that old, and more recent studies that I've seen were pretty consistent with this. But as you can see, this is a tag cloud right from the results. And the biggest thing here was resource overcommitment. Resources were just overcommitted, so it would cause project delays and so on. You can see, some other things might look pretty common here: lack of visibility, data is in silos, people are too reactive, there's missed business opportunities, and so on. Now, diving a little deeper into this study, what emerged from it is the organizations that classified themselves as higher maturity, meaning they were more successful in certain areas, they had certain characteristics. And one is, instead of annual planning, they did ongoing continuous planning. So it wasn't just an annual plan, but it was quarterly or more often monthly, where they're doing portfolio planning and resource reallocation and so on. They had an established demand intake process, so they understood when the demand was coming in to stop and pause, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. But the lower maturity companies had more of a limited demand intake process, if any. Sometimes it was just open season. Another thing was holistic view into demand and capacity. So they knew what was coming down the pipeline, and they understood their capacity to be able to accomplish it. Whereas the lower maturity companies were pretty much operating blind there, often in both areas. The other thing was around the PMO. The higher maturity companies were repositioning the PMO to provide capacity data, the portfolio view, trade-off information, and to help be a strategic partner to the business. And often, sometimes they were even in the business. Whereas the lower maturity companies, the PMO was still back in the early PMO stages as a methodology police or scheduler, process keeper, and so on. So that's been changing to be more of a strategic role. Also, as a result of what they were doing, the higher maturity companies tended to be more agile and adaptive. So they were proactive because they had the visibility. They understood what the priorities were. They had information to make wise trade-offs. Whereas the lower maturity companies tended to always be overcommitted, and they were in react mode, and projects were coming out of left field, and so on. And then lastly, in lower maturity companies, the PMO is really unclear about its business role, or its tie to the business, or maybe wanted to become more tied to the business, but wasn't quite sure how. Whereas the higher maturity companies, the PMO was becoming almost, if not literally a part of the business, they were certainly a strategic partner, and they were headed to establish an ePMO unless they already had it. But in any case, the PMO was established as a change agent as opposed to a barrier. And I think that's the key. That's the big shift that companies made. Now, what are the impacts of some of these pain points? The impact of poor resource planning, it leads to missed timelines because people aren't available to get things done. There's uncompetitive cycle times, low value project staffing. And by that, I mean, people are staffed on projects, but are they the highest value projects, or are people staffed doing a lot of work that's not bringing a whole lot of value? So that's where prioritization comes in and understanding the strategy. In many cases, resources were stressed out and overloaded because there hasn't really been any plan to capacitize the work that's coming in. Now, the benefits of resource planning, again, this came out of the resource study, the mature organizations were 37% more likely to have less likely to have overcommitted resources, and 23% more likely to handle the constant change that affects assignments and availability. 34% were more likely to prioritize shared resources, and that's always been a struggle for organizations. 53%, more than half, were more likely to have a combined view of demand and capacity so they can enable faster decisions. And then 37% more likely to be able to effectively prioritize and govern demand. Now, the risks of not doing resource planning, again from the same study, organizations lacking resource management, they report almost half had an inability to complete projects on time. 38% missed business opportunities, 36% increased project costs, inability to innovate fast enough at 34%, dissatisfied customers or clients, 31%, compromised quality affecting customer or client satisfaction. A third, just about a third of the people had that issue. So the problem is it's not so easy, like this baby at the chessboard, continuously balancing prioritized demand within available capacity in order to meet strategic and emergent needs, not just the strategic needs, but things that come up out of nowhere, and to be able to prioritize your demand and capacity during that and maximizing productivity to its fullest effect and really optimizing the people that you do have is not child's play. In fact, I liken it to trying to change tires on a moving car. Now, Hans Hofmann, the artist, said the ability to simplify means to eliminate the unnecessary so that the necessary may speak. And that's what we need to do here. We need to say, okay, let's cut through all the noise and then get to the basics of the process. Now, here's the process at a high level. Somewhere along the line on the left side, you can see intake. There's a new request that comes in. And somewhere there's a process to classify and scope and size the request. Is it bigger than a bread box? Is it a project? Is it some other kind of work? And then you submit it for approval. And then we hop over to the right into the portfolio planning and governance arena, where the project, we look at it in the context of the overall portfolio. And then we rank and prioritize the project within the portfolio. Where does this stand versus the other things we're doing? And we assess two things, you can see in red there, spend and capacity. Now, here's the problem. Most organizations will assess the spend. They'll say, okay, is this within our budget? What are our targets? What are our, what's our investment strategy? What they often lack is also assessing it against capacity. Do we have the capacity to deliver this? And if not now, when? And that's a big decision that needs to come out of this, because we have accept a project, reject it, or hold it for later, and then.
Hi there, hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also gaining complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN to earn, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.